Welcome to another Tr6 parts video. Welcome to the Tier 6 cylinder head conundrum. So, this video is not a how-to, it's more of an information guide. So, long story short, I've had a couple of engines come in for rebuilds and they happen to be 72s. But it got confusing because something wasn't adding up with them, and for parts wise. So with that, I've decided, I think I'm pretty much sure I figured it out. I'm going to do a video on it because there's a lot of people out there with 72s and it actually is quite confusing when it comes to parts for that. So let me explain. So the Tier 6, and sorry, just so you know, this is a carb model, not a PI. But not saying that the PIs will have the same issues their own ways, just with different numbers, or the CPCR, I think it is, for the carb models, the PI models, shall I say. Anyway, so we're going to go through numbers and I'm going to explain a few things of the Tier 6 cylinder head. And again, if anybody has any information out there that you can add to it to clarify stuff, absolutely throw it out there. And yeah, Chef Tush, I'm talking about you. The world of information. Anyway, so let's start with the Tier 6. The cylinder heads, just treat them. Cylinder head number one. Actually, sorry, just before I say that. When you go to get parts, and this is where I found the problem as well, is that a lot of the places that do the parts, the suppliers, give you next to no information on what you need. And again, for most cars, it should be okay. And again, I'm talking about the Tier 6 carbons, should be okay. But certain years, like I said, the 72, it's going to be very confusing. I think you're going to get the wrong part because I couldn't even find the information. I knew what I was looking for, and I still couldn't find it. So I was a little, I wasn't sure either. When we think of the Tier 6 engine, we think of two engines. We have a CC and we have a CF. Simple. CC goes from 69 all the way to 72. Yeah. And then the CF will start from 73 to 76. That's it in a nutshell. All right? In a nutshell. That if you see a CF, you presume CF1 is pretty much a 73 onwards, right? Okay. That's pretty straightforward to follow in general for the car. However, when it comes to parts for the engine, that doesn't help. Let's go to the CCs. So, first one, CC. I'm going to get rid of this because it's been tree. Cylinder heads. The early Tier 6 cylinder heads, right? So the CC engine, right? The early cylinder heads, the numbers for that was 307837. Right? That's the early model ones. That's pretty straight explanatory. This one should be from years 69. Oops. This one's from 69 to 70, I say late 71, we'll say 72, right? We'll say 72, ideally it's probably 71 and 3/4. Anyway, so if you have one of these cylinder heads and you have a CC engine, everything else gets a little easier after that. Sorry, I have a little bit of information down here I'm going to read off it. Your CAN number. The CAN number is pretty straightforward. It is 307621. Very easy. You will find the number for that on the cam. It's on a flat surface where it looks like it's been flattened, and it's done by hand. So like an old battery from the 80s or 90s, they used to get like a soldering iron and actually write the date of birth in the store when you bought it. They'd write the date before you walked out with it. This is pretty similar. The part number is the number that's actually on the cam and it's written by hand. That's how you know you have an early cam. So what goes with that cam? Well, when you talk about the cylinder heads, you have valves. Right, there's two valves. You have an inlet and you have an exhaust. Right, so you know, I'm going to change color for this. The inlet, we'll get purple. The inlet always stays the same. So that is 1.44. Right, that's your inlet valve, and it's the same all the way through for everything. The exhaust valve is 1.2 1.25. All right, that is your exhaust valve. So straightforward. When it comes to the push rods, right? So we'll say push rods next. Push rod. For these, it's again very straightforward. The push rod is 8.11. That's the standard box standard length. You can get upgraded ones that are different lengths or whatever, so on and so forth. But based on the original numbers, that should be length of your push rod. Pretty straightforward. This one also comes with a single spring valve, so there's only one spring up the top and not two. And I'm not going into all the ratio and compression and all that jazz. Don't worry about that. I'm just leaving it with numbers. The other thing about this one is this one runs a long crank. Right? So what's the difference in a long crank? A long crank is basically the back end of the crank is longer. The pilot bushing for lining up the clutch and the gearbox, the pilot bushing goes into the crankshaft itself. It slides right in, and that's it. The flywheel is narrow, easy as that. All right. I'll explain to those a little further down. So if you have an early one, anywhere from that year, that should be all the stuff you run at. Now, numbers. So it's important with this one because if you're running this camshaft that has certain numbers to open with, so let's change the color again. Hopefully you can see this red. So for this one will open at 10 degrees before top dead center. So before top dead center, it will close 50 degrees after bottom dead center. And then you have 180 degrees in between them two. All right. So altogether you get 240 degrees. So, and I'm talking about the inlet, not the exhaust. The exhaust opens at the bottom end of it. But the inlet opens for that period of time. It opens for 240 degrees. And then when you're setting the timing, you're going to divide it in half, which is 120 degrees. So 120 degrees in, it's fully open. Since it started 10 degrees before top dead center, we're going to take another 10 off that, and we end up with 110 degrees. So on our wheel, after top dead center is where this valve is fully open with that camshaft, right? Based on the size. So that valve, that size, fully open at that with that camshaft. Pretty straightforward, easy to do. So let's get rid of these for a second. Now, let's move on to the next part, which is where it starts to get confusing. The camshaft in 72, they started to change the car to a late model. So they came up with another cam, or another cylinder. So the number for that one is 312388. All right. What's so special about that one? Well, nothing really. Not yet. This one started in 72. Now, the thing is though, it's hard to say when it stopped. So it's from 72 to, I'm going to say, 73 and a half. Now, why would I write 73 and a half? Again, you're under the illusion when you get to 73, you're on CF1. Technically you are, but to the engine, you're not. And you'll see what I mean about this cam. This one here runs 72 to 73, right? So because they're changing it, so now, I'll write these down first. The crank is now short. Has a short crank. So they've changed it. The crank is short. The flywheel has gotten bigger, and now the pilot bushing goes in the flywheel. That's what the later models are. Oh, absolutely. The valves now have twin spring, right? String valves. Starting to look like a late model, isn't it? That has a twin spring. Sorry, I had to check to make sure you can still see it. I'll zoom in a little bit more, you can see. I have the numbers up in the top there, but yeah, okay. Don't worry about any of this here, this is other stuff I'm doing. It has a twin valve spring, right? So now the valve inlet and exhaust. So now it has a twin spring and now has a shortened crankshaft. Now you're expecting the later model valves. So 1.44 for your inlet, the same as the original, and then your exhaust is still 1.25 though. It's still the same as an early one, but yet we're into 73. So how is that? Well, here's where the confusion is going to start. Remember I said about the CC and CF, the way like everything will tell you, like if you go onto certain websites, it will give you information that if you're going to buy, oh sorry, no I didn't push on that. The push rod is 8.11, right? When you go to get that, it will tell you that this push rod here is for all CC engines. Sorry, that's a terrible arrow I've done. Looks like a T. This one here is for all CC engines. That's a lie. It's actually for CF as well. Now, you see where I'm going with this. Some places, and I'm not trying to pick on Moss Motors, but when it comes to push rods with them, they will give you one push rod for all years from 69 to 76, and we know that's not true. It's not the correct one all the way through, but that advertises it. It advertises that the only other push rod is a uprated and it's shorter, but it doesn't give you the size or anything. So, to be honest, the information is not there for what you need. It's not helping you to get the correct part. You may call them and they'll tell you, which is fine, but you shouldn't have to. The information should be there. I've had a look at other parts, like British Parts Northwest, you have Moss UK and all that. There's other parts in the UK that will tell you. And they'll give you a bit more details, but they'll still tell you the same. This push rod of 8.11 is for all CC. The push rod of 8.30 is for all CF. Again, that's actually wrong. So what's going to happen is you're going to end up getting the wrong parts for the wrong engine depending on your number. Right? Follow along, you'll see. So with this, we have the short crank, twin spring, and so on and so forth. What camshaft goes in this one? So what cam are we on? The cam number is still 307621. It is the same camshaft as the early CC, but we're pushing into 73. Why, what made you, where did I get this number from? Why did I put 73? It's some CF. Ready? This is why. It's because this camshaft, right, goes all the CCs all the way to CF 12500. Yes, CF 12500. We're all, well, to me anyway, if you said that, oh, I have a CF1, to me that starts at 73. Now, was it actually built in late 72? Most likely, but I look at it as a 73. CF 12500, that's a few numbers. I mean, that's 12,500 of them. So how many of them were made? When did they stop? Now, these could easily be all the way up to late 72. So they started CF1 maybe in September 72, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's classified as a 73, even though it was made then. No different than any car. Like any car that's manufactured in the later half of 1 year is classified as the year later. That's why for me, the 69, I have a 68. I call it a 68 because it was manufactured in September 1968. But there is no 68 cars, but it was actually manufactured then. So it's a funny system here. By right, I always classify the car in the physical year, calendar year, the 1st of January to 31st of December. I'd classify a car on when it was made on a calendar year, me personally. Here is not the same. So, even though this is up to CF12500 and was probably made in 72, it's classified as 73. So this one has the same, up to CF12500. To me, that will push it to something like a 73.5. Because you could say, oh, you were all made in the late 72, so this is 73. But when you change, when does CF, or should I say, when you change cylinder heads, the camshaft changed with the block. So to say that a later model starts from CF1, the cam doesn't. The cam continues on. So if this is the camshaft for this, then what do we have? We have a push rod. What size push rod is in it? Well, because it's an early thing, is 8.11. Now, again, if you go and buy some and you go to your vendor, whoever's supplying you, like I says, that's just like I said, whether it's Moss or anywhere in the UK or anywhere in the US, if you put in that, oh well, I have a CF engine, you are going to get a different push rod to match that. But it's not correct. You have to get what matches the cam. The cam now is in a CF model. So to me, like mid 72, the 73 cars were manufactured in late 72. That's correct. But like, when did they stop using this cam? That's where I'm saying 73.5. Because maybe in actually 1973, when you start manufacturing the cars in 73, i.e. let's say January, February, March 73 when it was made, if it's made then, is it not classified as a 73.5? Because the late 72s are classified as a 73. So how far forward do you go? And that's the conundrum part, is when did he stop these? They stopped these with this number, but when? When was the last one made? If it was made the last month of 72, that's fine. The next one, 125001, was probably manufactured in January 73. That's fine, but it's not an early 73 car then, is it? No, it's a late 73. So 73.5. That's where I'm coming up with it. I hope that makes sense what I'm trying to say here. I'm just trying to figure this part out. So because of that now, this is where you can go wrong, because the push rods, you have to use an early push rod. So the timing on this will be the exact same as the timing on this. So again, 8.11 for all CC models. That's wrong, because now we're into a CF and I'm still using the same push rod. How is that? The lack of information on the supplier to say that swap over and this cylinder head is what's going to like mess everything around. So with that, then we have one more left over. I think I've rubbed too big. I can't see. I'm going to squeeze it in here. Hope you can see. The last one, the cylinder head, is 313247. This one's a little more straightforward. So to me, this one is, I'm going to classify it pretty much as 74 to 76. That's how I'm classifying it. I'm not saying that's just how I judge it. What goes with that one? Well, we have a cam number. And this one is different. The cam number for this one is, so I have it written down here now on my piece of paper. I have to get it. 311399. That's that cam number. How do you know you have that one? This one, that number is actually cast into it. So when you actually cast the camshaft, it's in there, it's smack in the middle, right in the middle of the cam, swing it around, and you'll see that casted in there. That's the part number. That's how you know you have that cam. Has shorter lobes. I'm not getting into like the front end to say, oh, it has 2 rings and 3 rings. I'm not going with that at all. What does this one have? So let's go with the valves. Right? So in there. So we'll see in and EXT for exhaust because I'm running out of space. This one runs the same 1.44. And your exhaust is 1.19. Smaller. It's a smaller valve. Push rod. Push rod, although it looks like I have pash rod. This was the same short crank. So it's the same as a late model. The push rod is actually 8.30. So a longer rod, shorter lobe on the cam. So theoretically, it evens itself out if you want to look at it that way. Well, we're looking at, again, the same thing, twin spring. The time is a little different. So the timing on this one, so let's do it in red, is, I hope I remember this, 18 degrees before top dead center. 58 degrees after bottom dead center. I'll put a T, so it should be A, D, oh God, I got that wrong. I wrote ABBA. Oh God. 50 degrees after bottom dead center. There we go. And again, you have 180 degrees in between. So add them up is 6, 5, 256. Divide it in half, you have 128. And then take your 18 off, the same as the other one, because that's before, and you end up with 110, exactly the same as the other one. So fully open at 110 degrees, no different than all of these two here. So when it opens, or is fully open, doesn't change. However, when it starts to open, is. So what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is, if you decide that you have one of these and you look at it and you think, oh, of a CF model, and you go and you buy the shorter push rod, but you have the shorter push rod, you have the longer push rod, and you have the bigger lobes for the cam because you're actually running this one, providing your engine number is below this, then you end up with one or two things that can happen. One is, because it's longer, there's a possibility it will start to open at a different time. Because this cam is designed to open at 110. The push rods in these are designed to open at 10 degrees before, and these are 18 before. So, but it will always open when this starts to move. The issue is, it's going to be too long. I guarantee what will happen is you'll bend the valve, or you'll simply break your rocker arm. The rocker will just snap because it's too much pressure. Because it's trying to push the extra distance down and the valve is not moving. So it's either the valve is going to take the strain and bend, or the pushing mechanism on the rocker will just simply be brittle and snap, and it will just break. So it's very important that you match the correct one, because, like I said, it all has to match. If you put a late cylinder head on an early engine, what does that do? Well, it will, if you're running this cam, but you have these valves, it depends what you have on it. Like, theoretically, it will work as long as you don't put this push rod on this, that's fine. As long as you have everything else the same except for the valve size, all it will mean is that you'll have a smaller valve opening, and all the exhaust mightn't go out, and therefore it won't work as good. It will work, but you won't get the performance out of it because you're not getting enough pull, nor are you getting enough draw. So the exhaust is not drawing in enough air because it's not big enough. It's opening for the same amount of time, but it's not big enough. And the exhaust fumes is, again, it's not going out. So what will happen in there? Most likely you'll slowly but surely start choking out the engine, and it'll just get more and more clogged up because it's not moving the fumes that it needs to, like the exhaust valves, or the exhaust gas. It's not moving it out as good as it should do, because it's the exhaust valve that's the wrong size. Sorry, if you know if you're following me there. And the same is the other way around. If you put an early one on a late, well then, again, there's nothing wrong with that. You can run it as long as the cam and the push rods match the camshaft. So the push rods all has to match. These have to match ideally. If the valves are bigger, the exhaust valves, it's not the worst. You actually may most likely get more performance out of it by putting the bigger one on it, and that's probably why a lot of people take the early cylinder head and put on the late engine, just to have the bigger valves, which is fine. But the issue you run into is that the cam can be wrong, and you can get the wrong parts and end up with a badly running car because the information wasn't there. So bear that in mind, and I hope that makes sense what I wrote down here. Is if you're getting an engine build, or you're getting parts for it, or if you're getting just your cylinder head sent off, make sure you know what camshaft is in it, because everything revolves around this number here. I don't care what the engine number is. I don't even care what the cylinder, what the cast number is on the cylinder head. What camshaft is in it? If you have this camshaft, then you should be running these parts to match that. If you're running this camshaft, sorry, when I say that camshaft, up to here, if you're running this camshaft, then the numbers have to match. If you're running this one, these have to match. So again, if you change the cylinder head, you may have to change the cam to match to get that, to get it back to say normality, what it should be running at if you do it. But you can easily go wrong. You can see how you can go wrong. It is confusing. They'll tell you the same thing that even for the valves as well, same as the push rods. Like I've seen it where it goes, all the push rods of 8.11 is all CC engines, and then the 8.3 is all CF. But as you can see, that is not correct. But they don't tell you that. That information is missing, that this cylinder head runs an early cam up to this number. And again, I'm going to have a good guess that this cylinder head stopped when this number. So only from, if you want to say CF1, again I'm not 100%, but I'm going to guess, is that from CF1 to CF12500, you should have this cylinder head with that. And again, your crank will be different, you have the extra springs on that jazz, but your valves should stay the same and your push rods should stay the same. So just have a look. And again, if you have one of these and you have a late 72, or if you have a CF1 car, if anybody has a very early CF, like very early, this one here I have here actually is an early enough one. It is CF863. So CF863, UE or EU, whatever. That's the one I have here, and that's what started all this mess. I know I've had them before, and I don't think I realised where I had to change them, and I was wondering why I had to change them to make it work. But now I know why, because the cam is up to here. I presumed the camshaft, the early one, stopped at CC. It doesn't. It keeps going all the way up to CF12500. No, it doesn't stop at the last CC, which is, what's it, 5,000 or something like that? Something along that line? 50000 or whatever. Something along that line. I could be wrong. Or 125000, well, whatever. Anyway, it continues on into the CF models. If you happen to have this one on it, let me know where your engine is. Just throw it up there. You don't have to go into too much, just to see. I'd love to see if anybody has as close to CF1 as possible. I don't know, it may be out there, it may not be out there, it could be gone. Just to see a CF1 start with that cylinder head. And then, again, does this cylinder head here, 313247, does that begin at CF12501? The only thing I don't know, and I'd be amazed if it did, it doesn't make sense, is that this cylinder head continues on longer and you can have either valve in there. There's no way in there to have one cast number with two different size exhaust valves. That can't be right. Not to say somebody hasn't machined it and put the bigger ones in, but all the ones I've gotten all have the bigger one. That's not a, oh, somebody just got a machine by mistake. That is the way it is. And like I said, it's taken me a while only to have a couple of 72s here to realize what's actually going on with the cylinder heads. So I hope this makes sense. If all these numbers look any good to you. And again, if there's anything I'm missing in the way of for the engine itself, nothing else should change. Like the only thing that's, the only other change is this one here. The block, just the block itself is smooth. So straight into the block. This one is a recess. So that has a recessed, recessed block. So again, the same as the late one. It takes a recessed head gasket that has the metal band in it. Like I said, it literally became this except for the valve and the camshaft. Bear that in mind if you're doing it. And yeah, any other information, throw it out there. Let us know. That's it. That's my little video on the cylinder head conundrum, or the camshaft conundrum, because I literally was putting the wrong camshaft into one of these cylinder heads, only to realise it was wrong when I actually looked at the number on what it's meant to go into, because it just so happens, like I said, his number is pretty low, 863, CF863, it's a pretty low CF number, because it's a late 72, and that's what prompted me to all this in the first place, that I was missing the piece of information there. So that's it. Again, any comments, questions, concerns, throw it out there. I'm sure there's going to be a world of information that's going to get lobbed out, and hopefully, like I said, I've learned something myself. I'm hoping somebody else can learn something, and most of all, I hope somebody else has something else they can add to it. Again, because knowledge is power, and the more we know about these things to help each other, the less something can go wrong. So yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.